How is everybody? Who wants to hear the most offensive joke ever? Nobody. So sit down. We're gonna start the show. All right. Emily had one, but we're gonna just pass on that. Okay. So it's true. This is a marketing community. Yes. Yeah. Okay. Yes. And I'm kind of the token sales guy here, invited to the marketing party. So stereotypes are true. I talk fast. I'm wearing a grandma curtains as my shirt. I have fancy socks. And under your chair, we'll share this, just to make sure that you guys really, really like me, there's a free gift that I put there. So go ahead and check under your seat. Is there a gift there? You had one job, Fedie. One job.
Everybody wins a car. So
now, guys, I'm just kidding. We're gonna have a good time. You know the topic. It's Smarketing. Who here would identify themselves as a sales professional? Oh wow, way more than I thought. Okay, and how about a marketing professional? Cool. And who here is thinking, "Don't put me in a box, man"? Who's that? Cool, because it's 2019. We all sell, we all market, right? But today, for some reason, and in history, these two specialties haven't come together, and so we're hoping to solve that. And so what we did is we put together a panel of 4 extremely bright people who have sat in your shoes in the sales front.
Correct.
And that is not your turn to talk, Mark.
Oh, sorry.
Mute. And the marketing front. So we've got people that have sat in your shoes, but from kind of 4 different flavors. So hopefully you guys can relate. I mean, Emily runs an agency, right? But has to sell her agency's services, right? Garrio. So when you and I met, you're a super creative marketing person who was kind of pulled into a kind of a sales-esque or conversion type of role, and he did it so well that he now consults on that very topic. We got Amy, who has led high growth from a sales leader and a marketing leader at some really aggressive and hard places to do so. And then you have Josh, who has ran...
Here come the jabs.
Oh, no. Those are later. Who's run an agency but also been a W-2 sales employee. And so what he's done is from those experiences kind of put together a technology platform that mashes the two together. So we've got an incredible group here. We're gonna let them tell their story. But before we do that, I want to tell you a little bit lay of the land. So I'm gonna ask these cats about 3 to 5 questions. Okay? I'm gonna try and keep it under 25 minutes. The reason we're gonna do this is they've got some things to say, some things to tell. And it also gives you guys the opportunity to kind of come up with your own questions. We have 3 rules with those questions. Number 1 is if it's very specific and very specific to you, keep that question to yourself and come see us afterwards. We're gonna be hanging out. Reason is we wanna make sure that the content is good for everybody, okay? Number 2 is if you could keep your questions concise and speak loudly, it'll help this dumb sales guy process. And the 4 of us will be able to kind of come up with, kind of hear what you're saying and try and relate. And number 3 is if you hear a question that you think is beneath you, keep that to yourself. All right, keep that to yourself because we're trying to create the trust nest here, right? We're trying to have a vulnerable, authentic, amazing conversation. And to me, in my opinion, there's no stupid questions, only stupid people who judge other people, right? Wow. So with that, let's do introductions. Okay, I'll go first. So my name is Mickeli Bedore. My craft, or how I spend my days, is I've been in professional sales for 15 years in technology. Most recently, I help companies in the mid-size space achieve financial excellence through NetSuite's cloud-based ERP system. But when I'm not doing that in my free time, I help my wife. I do marketing. So I get to be a marketer and put on a marketing hat for my wife. She's launched about 3 to 4 successful companies, and I get to just do that. And most recently, one is BBG, which is a media company, which is Coffee and Closers. If you guys have heard of that, sits under that. And we run that. We just got nominated for an award. That's really cool. And she built it to be the #1 sales show, or independently produced sales show in the state. So I love sales, but I also love marketing, and I'm excited to learn from these guys. And I'll be moderating to keep things in order. Em, you want to go?
Sure. Is this working? Cool. So I'll start by saying my name is Emily Pritchard. I'm co-founder and visionary at The Socialites. I am also a car dealer's daughter. I grew up in showrooms. So when I went to go to college and I told my dad, I don't want to be a salesperson. Everyone thinks that they're slimy and gross. And he looked at me and said, everyone's a salesperson. They have to accept it, and those are the people that succeed. So now, what I get to do at the Socialites, we are a social media business consultancy. So what we do is we go into companies and we help them understand what they can do with social media to help drive real business results. I get to do the business development, which is partially sales and partially marketing, which is a fun spot to be in at a marketing agency. So get to speak to a little bit of both of those things here today. Oh, sorry for sharing.
Oh, yeah.
We're going to have you use this one.
Okay.
For this better quality.
Oh, okay.
So we'll pass around the best one. Okay, are we going to
All
share?
right.
If we need to, but if we could just pass it.
All right. How many guys here are familiar with Fuel Collective or Coco? Okay. I'm the guy that ran the technology stack and the marketing operations for that company since it was Coco, all the way through to today. So that's kind of what my background is. From that, I launched my company, Forage, which essentially helps other organizations do what I did at Field.
Okay. Good evening. I am Amy Green, and I am currently the Vice President of Marketing for Code 42. So many of you probably know Code. We're based downtown, a very cool Minnesota-founded company that's grown into a global data security company now. And I've been honored to be there for about 3 years and have seen wild transformation during that time. My career, I started in sales. And much like the earlier comments, my dad told me after I won my Girl Scout cookie badge for having the most sales that I would be in sales at one point. So I started there, and I've spent about a quarter of my career in sales leadership, and the rest in marketing. But even when I've been in marketing roles, I've worked very closely with sales, so I have huge respect for both professions, but I think that's really enabled me to help see both sides. So yeah, I've lived in the United States, I've lived in Australia, and led sales and marketing teams around the globe, and just super excited to be here tonight.
Hey everybody, I am Josh Fedie. I brought the sales persona of me to this one, so if you saw any of those ridiculous videos I was making, I apologize. Marketing Josh stayed at the office. So Josh Fedie, I launched a business. There goes the scotch. That's alcohol abuse. I launched a business called SalesReach just 6 months ago. It's been the most fulfilling journey of my life. We created a tool that is essentially Smarketing in itself. And it really does help bring sales and marketing teams together and to help salespeople create digital experiences for their prospects, because it's just not fair that marketing people are the ones that get to do all that stuff. We need that too, and honestly, prospects demand that. They don't want to be courted by people making cold calls all the time. They want to stay in a digital environment where they feel safe. So that's what we created with that. But I've been in sales and marketing for 20 years of my life. I've had roles in both director level of sales and marketing. And so I've kind of felt the frustration from both sides in that journey, and that's really where my product came from. So I'm really excited to talk about this with everybody today.
All right. Yep, I'm going to eat this mic so you guys can hear me. It's my sacrifice for you. All right, so there's nothing worse than seeing a panel or a moderator who asks blanket questions because it's lazy. So with that, I'd like to ask a blanket question to you guys, just to kind of get definitions down so we can all understand where you sit. I'm going to just go down the row. What is the definition of sales, and what is the definition of marketing?
So I'm going to answer that in the reverse order. So at the Socialites, marketing is responsible for brand awareness and lead generation, and then we pass it over to sales to prospect, make sure that they're target market, and close the deal. So it's as simple as that, taking something from awareness, generation, prospecting, and closing the deal.
Just don't drop that mic because it's expensive. So that was awesome.
From my seat, that's a really good answer. So marketing, to me, is responsible for creating the system and the creativity that goes into that system that supports the sales efforts. And sales is responsible for providing the feedback to marketing so they can make that system more efficient and cost effective.
I'll start with sales, and I will be honest, I stole this from a former boss of mine who described it in a way that I relate to, and that is it's the art and science of helping people understand they need something that they may not have realized they needed. Yes. And marketing, another analogy from I've had a lot of wonderful bosses in my career, but talked about marketing being kind of the author or the writer of the story, developing the story. What is our go-to-market? What is our, what makes us unique? What makes us different? What's the research that backs all of that up? It's really, the writer, and then the sales be more the actors in the play. And that's an analogy I think about when I think about the relationship.
I can't thank you enough for being the fourth person in a row on one question. Okay, but this is the way I look at the difference. I look at sales and marketing today is we are all educators in a school, essentially. Marketing is, they are tasked with educating the buyer and informing the buyer of what their options are with your organization. Sales is there to help you make sure that you're making the right decisions. And so I actually don't call myself a salesperson anymore. I have for the last 10 years of my life, I've called myself a strategic advisor because I really don't sell anything. I'm just here to help you to make sure that you're making the right decisions and to make sure that if you do decide to move forward with my organization, that it's an informed decision and that it's going to actually help you, because if it doesn't, what does it matter?
That's awesome. All right, so Garrio, when we met, when you were at Coco, I was your sales buddy, good and bad. And you were one of the most amazing, still are, creative marketers that I know. But then things changed, and you got put into a really rigid results-driven thing. So what I'd like to know is, what did you learn from that experience coming out of the gates to say, here's now what, basically what did you learn about sales in that experience, and what did you also relearn about marketing?
Ooh, that's a good one. I think from a marketing perspective, I learned that it takes just as much creativity to come up with an efficient solution, to reach whatever revenue goals you're trying to accomplish, right? And from a sales perspective, they're not. You guys weren't just all, your stereotypical sales guys. You understand how to, unpack, customers' needs, and as Josh said, help buyers make an informed decision. At the end of the day, everybody's trying to move the business forward. So realizing that they all need to work together towards that end goal was that big insight.
Right on. All right. So Em, so you are so you guys know Emily, Socialites? Okay. So you're your agency's #1 salesperson, but you sell creative services. So I guess maybe I don't want to, who knows better where those two disciplines merge, right? Live in harmony, and where they start to agitate each other. Could you tell us a little bit more about that?
Sure. I think starting from as a startup 8.5 years ago, you don't know the difference between the two. It's really fuzzy. And I think some of you that might be at more lean organizations, that the two are very much one and the same. What we've learned in the last 8.5 years is that we think of sales and marketing as kind of like an accordion. At sometimes you need to really expand what you're doing to get your message across, and at sometimes you really need to lean up and make sure that there are certain key people that are responsible for the numbers, that are responsible and held accountable for hitting revenue goals or hitting lead generation, conversion metrics. I would say what we've learned as an agency when you're doing sales but you're selling marketing services is that everyone actually really does sales. So really embracing that, how do we train, how do we empower every single person at our agency to understand what we do, who we want to work with, getting really specific about our target market criteria in terms of where they live, what they care about, what they look like, what their title is, how we can help them serve their needs. So from a sales standpoint, it's really about creating the buy-in across the agency and the understanding of what does working with the socialites look like, so that whenever our team is out at an event like this, or tonight they're probably at like 5 different events, that they're actually acting on my behalf, and that they know the talking points. They know, hey, you should talk to Emily, let me make an email introduction. So they actually understand what our process looks like and what we're looking for and what a great relationship looks like. And I would also say, from an account management standpoint, or from the people that as a salesperson you're kind of handing those clients off to, making sure that they understand, what did you promise that client? And you're, as the salesperson, going to follow up with that team to make sure that you're delivering on those promises. So again, it's an agency-wide conversation about who we are, what we do, who we want to work with, and how we are going to provide value to them, and making sure that at the end of the day, we're doing what we told them we were going to do.
Do you mind if I take that a little deeper?
Sure.
When did that, because you started, listen, I started a consulting agency for 4 years. 4 years. And it was a fractional VP of sales and marketing thing, right? And I thought, I'm going to go and slay it, just like I did in corporate America. Well, I didn't realize I had to be an attorney and an accountant and all these other things. If you guys are, So when you started this agency, right, when did you realize, oh man, this is a message I've got to get planted in now for people that probably, if you were to write in a job description, yeah, you're going to go to events and sell our stuff, they probably wouldn't have applied.
I think it's something that when we hire, we look for people who aren't afraid to take on things that are more than just their role. So they're eager to learn, what do we do? Who do we want to work with? How, honestly, the first question we get from our team when we share, we're very transparent about our numbers on a quarterly basis. The first thing they ask is, how can I help? So I think it's when we had a team that understand from a financial basis what our goals were as a company, and that they shared in those goals and they contributed to the greater revenue goals, that they raised their hand and said, I want to be part of that sales team. Even though it's not part of my job, this is a great career development opportunity. This is a great way for me to understand how a business works. And I can also say, taking this with a grain of salt, most of our employees are 25 to 35 years old. So this might be their first or second job where they're really buying into the vision of the company, our mission, what we're all about, and saying, I want to do whatever it takes to grow here, to stay here, and to do my part to make sure that this business succeeds. And that's been such a blessing for our team to have people that say they want to learn and they want to be part of an organization where they can do more than just their job. They don't want to be in a box. They don't want to just say, I don't need to do sales because that's not part of my job. We've really ingrained the message across our team that sales is everybody's job. When you go out there, you represent our brand, our company, our clients, and everything that you do. So here's some talking points that helps you on that journey, that educates you. So
Right on. That's cool. So I had a boss too that used to say, we're all in technology because we all have cell phones. Like we all, use our cell phones for more than calling people. And we're all in sales because we have to communicate in an educational way that, whether it's, if anyone's seen Avengers Endgame, I think I'm the only one in this whole world that hasn't seen it yet. Haven't? All right. No spoilers. Yeah, let's go. That's. So this one's for you, Fedie. Has anyone seen? First of all, so you're, in my opinion, you're the sales enablement all-star. Right? You've got funded. So Josh has built, if you guys don't know SalesReach, it's pretty incredible. It's a tool that competes with LinkedIn's premium tool. Like it's better because I know that because I'm forced at this company I'm at to use LinkedIn's premium tool and it sucks. His is better. But it was built after all those years of being on the marketing side and the sales side. So I think you're the sales enablement guy. My question for you is more on the social selling, because have you guys seen Josh's videos? Have you seen the one where he interviews himself?
No.
Yeah. Well, for those of you that don't, it's disturbing. I'd say creepy at best. But anyway, we're friends, so I'll just leave you on a high note there. Where does social selling, right? And especially from when sales and marketing mix, there's a lot of places that I want to hear your take on where does social selling from me, a salesperson, end, and where does it begin for a marketing person or vice versa?
Yeah, look, I think that this is one of the biggest points of contention between sales and marketing teams in an organization. Because as a modern salesperson today, It is your responsibility. It is your job to be creating a personal brand around yourself, to be singing the praises of yourself, to be talking about what value you bring to an organization, why you're a part of a company, why you do what you do, why they should buy from you. You have to be doing that stuff. And you have to be creating all kinds of content, writing blog posts. I do a lot of videos just because I'm comfortable with videos at this stage in my life. I wasn't in the beginning at all. But finding that way to convey the message and get people to relate to you is super important, right? And salespeople need to do that because, so the modern buyer, anybody in here use HubSpot? Raise your hand if you're a HubSpot user. Raise your hand if you've researched HubSpot at all, read anything about it. Okay, so everybody knows who the modern buyer is, right? The modern buyer does not need me or Mickeli anymore until they don't. Until they're about 30% of the way, there's 30% left before they make up their decision, basically. They go to your website, they self-inform, they understand what your products and services are, they know what their problem is already, they don't need you to tell them what their problem is anymore. We used to be able to tell people what their problem was. Mm-hmm. That was an amazing time, right? They didn't even know a problem, and I would identify a problem.
Yeah, the 70s were great. 70s were great.
But they don't need us for that anymore, right? So now they understand all of that before they reach out. And by the time they reach out to us, our window is very small. We have a very short time to build a relationship with our prospects. And without building a relationship, you have zero trust. And without trust, you have no velocity, right? So you're not going to land that deal quickly. And if you do land that deal, it's probably because you're the low-cost leader, and nobody wants to be selling as the low-cost leader. If that's the way we're going, count me out. I'm going to go into marketing full-time. I'm done with this sales thing, right? But that's the challenge right there. If you can create an impactful personal brand online, you are going to accelerate your sales because people are going to trust you. They're going to know who you are and what you stand for, and they're going to want to work with you because they genuinely like you as a person. Now, you have to be authentic. Don't try to be a fake persona of yourself in digital channels. Anybody that is in this room that knows me on a personal level and watches my videos on LinkedIn, hopefully they feel like that is the exact same person. Okay? Hopefully. And please tell me if I'm wrong, because I'll change some things. But I recently cried on LinkedIn, right? I cried for 8 minutes straight. Why? Because that's what my day was. I closed a seed round. I brought in $600,000 into my bank account. I couldn't do anything but cry. Why would I shelter that from the world? That is my authentic self. That is what happened in my day. I'm going to broadcast the horrible days. Don't worry, right? If this whole business crashes and everything goes kaput, I'm going to let you know. You'll see it on LinkedIn. Don't worry. It'll be there. I won't shelter you from that, right? I want you to follow that whole thing. But that's really important. And where that's hard for marketing teams is they look at that and they say, wait a minute now. You're making all these videos, and that's our job. Typically, that is our job. So why are you making videos? Now, wait a minute here. When you put that logo on that video, the pixel dimension around that image of our logo is supposed to be exactly 25 pixels, but I looked at your video and it was actually 15. And don't ever do that again because you're destroying our brand. Those conversations need to stop immediately because if somebody buys into what your organization does philosophically and they want to share, they want to tout the good things that your organization is doing because it relates to them as a person, right? And that's helping them build credibility and trust with the people that they're trying to sell to and bring in more revenue for your business. If you stifle that in any way, marketing, if you stifle that in any way, they will stop immediately. You will lose a brand ambassador. You will stifle a salesperson. You will kill some really authentic deals that you could land. That's just one example of where personal branding and marketing, it absolutely crosses over, and I get it. I've had both those roles. I know. It's scary, right? It's scary to see your salespeople producing their own videos, putting out company-branded messages that maybe isn't part of your exact mission statement or about us statement or whatever. But you got to be comfortable with that, because those are the people on the front lines that are actually selling your products. That's what they're saying when they're in a room with somebody and you're not there. So they're saying it anyway. Just get comfortable with it. Embrace it. Move forward. If they need coaching, coach them, but don't reprimand them. Encourage them to continue doing those things, because they're doing your job for you. They're doing their job for themselves. They're being self-sufficient, right? And they're bringing in revenue so everybody gets to keep getting a paycheck. There isn't anything wrong with that. Whoa, here comes the dialogue.
Thanks for that.
I know.
Oh, no,
Snooze fest.
No, I'm kidding. That was brilliant.
That's all I brought for
I heard a
tonight.
clap. Let's do a clap. Why not? All right. Now I'm going to play devil's advocate. I'm going to double up on you, Amy. Apologize ahead of time. So that's good for you, because you're a startup and you're you're the number one employee and the number one employee and the number 2 and 3 and 4. So that's awesome. So you can say that. Who here works for a company more than one person? All right, everybody, good. So Amy, so you've worked for. Sorry, dude. So you're right. So that's great. But Amy, you've led high growth and velocity from a sales and a market standpoint. And when we were talking, so we have a 15-minute pre-call. I don't think they all went at least an hour. I think we went for 2.
I think we did.
It was the first time I ever talked to Amy. And what I found very intriguing is that she has had to deal with you're talking about on a different level. She's had to be the reprimander. So here, I'm going to ask you one question first that kind of conflicts with that, because I agree with you. But when that happens, when your sales reps go rogue, and you've sat on both marketing and sales, how do you rein that in, and how do you make it back to here's our cohesive brand, here's what we're trying to put out? I'm going to stop talking.
Yeah, I mean, my first reaction to that as a marketer.
Can you get closer to the mic, please?
Yeah, I mean, earlier in my career, I probably would have been like, here are the brand guidelines. Didn't you read them? But I think what I've come to learn is I think the reaction now is okay, what is it that he or she is trying to do that we are not providing to them from a marketing standpoint? There's something here. Because I've found, again, huge respect to anyone that gets into sales. Salespeople are incredibly intuitive. They're smart. I've seen salespeople that just, you give them a piece of, sales collateral, whatever, and they know if it's going to sing, if it's going to resonate with their prospects or their customers. So my first reaction in today's world is just, okay, what is it that he's trying to do? And what can we do as marketers to provide something that maybe fits that need? Because what I've found is that, and I've had lots of salespeople over the years that have come to me and said, I want this, and they're very specific. But what my approach is usually, okay, tell me a little bit about what you're trying to do. And then once you listen and like, okay, well, we've got a piece, I think that would really work. And they're like, great, 9 times out of 10, awesome, it meets their need. But I learned very early in my career, starting my career at a very sales-driven company, that I would not dream of putting a piece out or material for sales that they hadn't at least weighed in on. Now, that doesn't mean you have to do everything they want you to do, or it doesn't mean you take every single piece of advice. But it does mean, again, that you respect what they bring and that they are talking to customers every day, they're talking to prospects, and that they offer a lot. So just really listening and bring that in. But now, if it's like egregious, that might be another thing. But for the most part, I'm with Josh. Like, I've always been a little bit like, you know what, if you push the boundaries a little bit, that's what we pay you to do, and that's why you're aggressive and creative. And, if it gets too far, we'll talk about it. But very rarely have I seen that.
Okay. So, double up member, I get 2, right?
Sure.
You gave me some examples of, so Amy's amazing. I don't know if you guys know that. Everyone's amazing. See that, how I cover that one, Josh? Even you. Even Josh is amazing. No. Amy, you've been able to build alignment between sales and marketing for can I say decades? Is that okay? And you've been able to do it at some pretty aggressive companies. I mean, Code 42, if you guys are familiar, I know Mitch, he's a buddy of mine. Like, yeah. That's an aggressive, fast-paced environment.
Indeed.
What could you share any sort of examples or processes or anything for our folks here?
Yeah, I've thought about this, and I think, it really comes down to something that's very simple, which is, as long as sales does everything marketing tells them to do, it's all good. I'm kidding!
You knew that was coming.
I'm totally
Cut
kidding.
off the mic.
I'm completely kidding. So to me, it starts with empathy. And what I mean by that is understand, like, again, the company probably paid a lot to hire these people. They probably invested a lot in their training. They mean well. Their paychecks, big percentage of them in some cases are on the line. But understand what they're up against. As a marketing leader, I've regularly had a requirement for my team to get in the field once a month or once a quarter, ride with salespeople, sit with technical support, listen to what's going on, because again, there's so much you can glean from that. Not only can you learn as a marketer, but it helps your credibility. The minute you tell a salesperson, hey, I've been out there, I went on a few sales calls, that will earn credibility, I think, instantly. And that's really, really important, because salespeople want to know you get it. Like, who are you? No, I get it. I've been out with your customer. I can't say I do what you do or I face it every day, but I'm working really hard to understand. And so empathy is a huge piece of, I think, being a good marketer. The other word I would use is transparency. So I've stepped into marketing roles a few times, most recently, where there was just the distrust. Like, marketing's like, oh, woohoo, we brought in, 50,000 leads last year. Well, we all know, right? Are they quality? That's the real important thing. And there was just like no sharing of information, or, just like it was kind of hidden. Like, okay, these 50,000 leads, where do they come from? And it just doesn't help. And there's all this internal consternation. The head of R&D at Code 42 he's a great guy. I find him very inspiring for a software engineer. But he said something when he started to me and my team. He said, I've just found it when you're in technology, and really probably most of our businesses, every hour you're spending with conflict or drama is a minute you're not spending with customers and competition and figuring out. You just can't afford to have any drama or any. Now, will you have some conflict? Sure, but have a healthy way to kind of work through it. Because if you're not, you're wasting your time, and you're giving up market share, and you're giving up your next big thing, and you're giving up what you need to do next in the market. So just recently, this year, we kind of tried a new approach with our funnel. So I don't know how many of you get involved with kind of setting lead funnel targets. Anyone? Okay, so quite a few. This is a really, really important, and we shouldn't view it as just like this, kind of, okay, exercise, check the box. This year, we really sat down with our sales team. I brought a lot of data to the table to talk about how we might want to approach it, but we really negotiated every single point. And I had someone on my team say, well, that's kind of a waste of time because we're going to learn a lot. I'm like, it is. But if you don't have that basic fundamental agreement and understanding, you're never going to get buy-in. So we started with that, and then started a weekly process that actually I got a lot of pushback on to start. But every Wednesday morning at 9 o'clock at our 100 Washington Square office, you could come up there and see that there's a group of about 10 of us that sit. And we start with the data. What's flowing through the funnel? What events coming up this week? What is driving? Mark, our DGR manager, what are you seeing? And it's just this constant, ongoing communication. And it was funny, as I was leaving the office tonight, I saw him, and I said, guess what I'm doing tonight? And I was like, I want to bring you with me, because he could tell you, like, just he feels much more comfortable, like, okay, I know what's there. And I know you're willing to listen if I have a concern. Because he's a sales leader that has these, 14, folks whose, again, incomes and livelihoods are largely dependent on the work that we in marketing do. And that's a pretty big responsibility that I try to instill in my team. So, and we know, of course, not every lead's going to be great, but just how we, communicate and constantly set those targets. The other two more things I would add. One is just as marketers, don't underestimate the value of internal marketing. And what I mean by that is, again, we're all in sales, we're all in marketing, right? And when you're launching a new product, a new program, anything to the sales force, one of your biggest jobs is to win their hearts and minds. Get them on board with the why, but get them excited. And I think if marketers really see their role and see sales as we think as marketers, we think about like, well, I'm going to buy paid media, and I'm going to, SEO on my site. All that's really important. But if you see sales as like your primary channel to get your message out, and your success kind of depends on them, I think if you have that mentality, especially in a B2B world, I think, you'll find your success much greater too. But just getting them on board, and something I've always tried to make a practice of doing is, again, I wouldn't dream of rolling anything out without checking, who are those thought leaders in your office or those thought leaders that are salespeople that can influence others? Because again, it's a big sales call. And I've seen it where in a company, in fact, 2 ladies that I've worked with for many years at a company are here tonight. And we've launched products, and I've seen the same product, pricing, everything's the same, but we launch it in 2 different markets, and just how it was kind of rolled out and covered made all the difference in the world. So don't underestimate internal marketing and the power of that. And the final one is just like messaging. Again, as marketers, we tell stories. And our job is to craft messages that resonate with our ideal customer profiles and all that. Don't underestimate, too, just the importance of making sure that what you're putting out there is really going to work. Because if sales doesn't buy in, it just won't get used. And you can sit and preach it and cover it 50 times and whatever, but really getting their buy-in. And again, buy-in doesn't mean you have to do everything they ask you to do, but it does mean that they absolutely have a voice at the table and can bring a lot of value to what you're trying to create as a marketer.
Wonderful. Yeah. Josh, did you? Oh.
Yeah. No, but I just wanted to add one thing. Lots of important things there. But one that really resonated with me. If you haven't lived a day in the life of somebody in a position that you don't hold, if you're in sales and you've never lived a day in the life of marketing, I love that. I love that Code 42 does that. Go do that. If you're in marketing and you've never lived a day in the life of sales, let me tell you something. Guess what sales get to do every single week? Mickeli, this is one of your favorite things. Mm-hmm. We get to fail publicly. We get to stand in front of a room of our peers, and we get to say, here's what our pipeline was last week, here's what our pipeline is this week. And then our sales manager goes, so you lost $400,000 in potential revenue this week? Yes, I did. I just failed publicly. Yeah. It's humiliating. Guess what you don't have to do in marketing? That.
Don't forget the fact that I already heard 100 no's that week.
Exactly. Exactly. We deal with that in sales all the time. Now, marketers, you have the same thing, right? Salespeople don't know what you're up against. Salespeople don't know why the pixels around the logo matter so much. Salespeople don't matter why using this word instead of that word matters so much, right? So if you're a curious person, and we all should be, adapt a growth mindset, knock on the door of your neighbor and say, hey, I've been in sales my entire career. What is it like to be a marketer? Let's talk about this. Because if you really listen, what it will do will help you perfect what you're doing in your other efforts in sales. And it will help you be better on message with what your company's doing. And at the end of the day, all we're all trying to do, we're all in sales and marketing. I think this has been said 15 times up here already. I'll say it another time. We're all in sales and marketing, right? We need to get on the same page, right? So let's just open that door and have that dialogue and have that discussion. What you're doing might not be all that wrong. It just might not be all that right. And a couple tweaks might make it perfect.
That's great, man. Do you guys, Garrio, anything to add on that point? Because you and I talked about this prior about that about Kurt's podcast. You remember that?
Yeah. So Mickeli had mentioned on Kurt Schmidt's podcast. So if you haven't heard it, highly recommend checking it out. That episode, the Schmidt list.
The Schmidt list. That's the marketing for you.
The importance of mutual respect, right? So if a salesperson, and this is more on the technical side of things, but if a salesperson, doesn't understand what the developers are doing, that's fine. As a salesperson, they're expecting that whatever they're selling, the technical team has delivered a solid solution, right? And on the sales side, the technical team goes, if I've built something that's epic, the sales team should be able to go sell it. And as long as you guys have that mutual respect, sky's the limit.
Do you have anything to add?
I would just say at the end of the day, whether it's getting buy-in from each other, It's really comes down to who the client or the customer is, and that's the common ground. So from our standpoint, yeah, it's sales and marketing, but it also extends into the customer experience after the handoff. So I think that as marketers or salespeople, what we can't forget is that we might have one job and one thing we're held accountable for in terms of the numbers and your responsibility and did I hit my quota so I get my bonus. But at the end of the day, like what we really care about at the Socialites is that renewal and that satisfaction and if they want to continue working with us. And so I think that's where, you know, everything aside, every department on our team has to say, how are we being customer first? How are we being client first? That starts literally from the first time someone comes on our website until the second that we ask for them to renew their business with us. And every sales, marketing, client service touch point has to come back to that. So I think that's where we really all kind of set our differences aside and say, are we doing what's best for the customer here? Or are we all staying in our own department with our own agendas and our own goals to hit our own numbers? That's actually not helping the business. That's not helping our clients. So I think that that's an important thing, whether you're in sales or marketing, or maybe you're in client services or account management, to keep that in mind that even as an account manager, you're also responsible for sales and marketing. You're also responsible for continuing the relationship that you have with your client. And whether you want to call it sales or marketing, it doesn't matter at the end of the day. That is the proof in the pudding. That's showing you if you're doing your job and showing up every day to put your best foot forward. And that's ultimately, I think, what we all care about, whether, you know, whatever role that you're in.
That's awesome. So we were talking about this, but to your guys' point is I've always looked at sales and marketing. It's a revenue growth engine. And like our job is to grow revenue. Whether we disagree or agree, our job is to grow revenue, right? And I've always looked at it as a you know, during the Olympics, they have the two volleyball, the Olympic volleyball team. You have the volley and the spike, or you know, the playwright and the actor. You know, it's one of those things where you see really high growth or high profitable companies. They're all invited on that stage when they win that Oscar. You know what I mean? It's the entire group that's coming together to say, we won that deal. And I've always loved that about the way that you've spoke about your team and about your doing. So I want to check in with you guys. It is about 25 minutes like I promised. So where is everyone at? Do we want to start asking some questions? Because I have one more to ask these guys if you guys want to get into questions, or we can keep going. What's the mood? What's the question? Last question is, in a perfect world, sales and marketing, what does your Narnia look like?
Start at the end.
Fedie, you got this?
The audience? No. I mean, in a perfect world.
Perfect world.
Wow. I mean, I think it starts with just coming together, like you were saying, like understanding what their actual job is, because in a sales world, you don't really know what marketing does, and in a marketing world, you don't know what sales does. Marketing complains all the time when a salesperson runs into the room, super excited. I need something tomorrow, right? Who's in marketing again? Raise your hand. Keep your hand up if a salesperson this week walked into your office and said, I need something tomorrow, right? This happens all the time, right? And we do that because you did an incredible job of getting them excited on the website. They reached out to us. We had an amazing conversation. And now I need to respond to them tomorrow because guess what? They're reviewing vendors. And they've talked to 5 other people. And 5 other people have promised to send something to them tomorrow, right? So, I mean, we're not doing that out of disrespect. We're doing that out of excitement. We're doing that to make sure that we are completing the circle. You started this conversation. We finished this conversation. We need to get this through. In a perfect world, we just understand what is tasked for us in our roles, right? We better understand, look, I can't just run into a marketing office and say this, right? I need to be better about proactively telling marketing what I'm going to need from them so that I can land more deals faster. That's what I need to do as a salesperson. And as a marketing person, I need to be a little bit more flexible in a perfect world because they're just not flexible enough. Sorry. I'm kidding. But I need marketing to be a little bit more flexible. And if something comes up and I don't have what I need, speed wins in sales. Speed wins. And if I don't have it, I need you to get it to me. I need it. And I'm sorry if I'm an asshole, but like, forget that other stuff you got to do because I need this tomorrow because this is a big deal. And you worked hard to get it here, and I worked hard to get it here, and we need to cross the finish line together. Let's do this. In a perfect world, we all understand that. That was way too long-winded. I apologize.
There is no limit, man.
I think the
Perfect world, all
I
right?
think the perfect world looks like 100% of your sales and marketing team's energy is focused on, and there's energy rallied around what's best for customers and what's best for the business. There's minimal drama. Doesn't mean there's not healthy conflict, because in debate, that helps us get better. But it's all conflict without personal agendas, and it's conflict and debate to help you get better. That would be my nirvana, or what'd you call it? Narnia. Sorry.
Narnia.
It's a little grunge for me, but, you know, Narnia. It's because I'm a dad.
From an ops perspective, everyone's aligned around the brand. What does the brand stand for? And everyone's aligned around what the revenue goals are. Like, what are we as marketing and sales aiming towards? And then there's systems in place that allows for transparency and the resources that sales needs to go crush it, right? So marketing has, all the tools just ready to go. Sales can dip in, grab what they need, and go do it. And sales is giving marketing the feedback from the field, what needs to be created and what can be improved. And once that whole system is humming along, every week you walk into that sales meeting and you're not talking about $400,000 in revenue that's lost, you're talking about how packed your pipeline is.
I don't think that there's a lot more that I can add outside of just getting everyone working in the same direction. So if you have a really solid vision, the processes, the structures all become really simple. It all becomes driving towards the same goal. And I think what we do is, if we don't have a strong vision, we don't have a strong objective, we overcomplicate all of the other pieces. So keep it simple, have a really big vision, and have that vision understood by every person in your company of what their role is and how they contribute to it. Because if they stay focused on doing that, it will all ladder up to a greater good. And the processes, the structures, all of the small talk and little arguments become very minimal in comparison to what that big vision is.
All right. Huh? Did I overpromise this panel? Did Laura overpromise this panel? All right, guys, so now it's your turn. I've asked enough questions. I'll fill in if you guys don't feel comfortable. But we've got a great panel here, so yeah. All right.
Hello. It's for kind of Josh and Amy, going back to kind of as you're building a personal brand. Actually, a conversation I had with Josh a couple months ago kind of got me to start to build a personal brand myself. And how do you actually bring that up to the company then? As somebody who, maybe is a little rogue right now, how do you end up bringing that up to the company and ultimately maybe bring it to the other salespeople in the organization as well?
Look, as far as personal branding goes, I believe this. It is the most valuable asset that you have, everybody in this room. Tomorrow you could walk into your job and they could say, guess what, we made some changes and you don't have a job anymore. Guess what they can't take away from you? Your personal brand, right? You should be working on your personal brand every single day of your life, because it is the one thing that is going to get you to the next level, no matter what that next level is. It might be a new job, it might be that next sale you're looking for, but that is how you convey to the world what is important to you, what you believe in, what you stand for, what you want to see change in the world. It's really, really important. Buyers, in a sales perspective, buyers need to know who you are. People buy from people. They will always buy from people. And that's why everybody's in sales in an organization, because if your receptionist or your janitor goes on LinkedIn and says, I love working for 3M because 3M just donated to this organization that supports my son, and that makes me feel good as a person, and that makes me feel good coming into an organization. You get those sorts of things, right? That's what every organization wants, right? But regardless, being able to tie in what you do every day to who you are as a person and why that matters to you, you can take that with you anywhere. You can call the shots anywhere you want to go. It's critically important, in my opinion. And I get it. Companies, they get a little bit weird about this, right? They see what you're putting out there and they see the videos and they say, that's marketing's role. Why are you doing that? I would challenge your company. So what I would say is, in 5 years, if the company you're working for right now, if you're still at that company and they don't have an AV studio that you have access to, they have failed you. That's what I would say. Every company in America should have an AV studio, should give you the ability to be trained in video and audio production in the next 5 years. If they don't do that, they have failed you as a person. You need to develop those skills. If they're not giving you those skills, you should learn those skills. You need to know how to do those things. If you don't know how to edit video right now, you better go learn. It takes about 2 hours. Go do it, right? Super important. If you don't know how to record audio, go do it, right? If you bring value to this world, if you believe you bring value to this world, start a podcast, talk about it. Start a blog, write about it. Start a vlog, record videos about it. Let people know who you are. If you're in sales or marketing, that's critically important to your company. And if your company doesn't understand the value that that brings to their bottom line, leave that company tomorrow. That's all I have to say about that.
Tell us how you really feel.
I just say results speak. So if you can somehow, prove, like, look, this works. And I've seen so many little ideas that started as a little thing with one person, but it worked. And all of a sudden it catches on like wildfire. So that's all I would add. Yeah.
Sorry, that was way more drama than the other response. I apologize. Yeah, you did expect that. You knew what you were getting into.
Anecdotally, one of the biggest differences between sales and marketing is the structure of their compensation. Do you think that is still the way to do it? Do you think when you were talking about speed, there's much more urgency, I think, for that number at the end of the quarter? Do you think that will change, or do you think that's the right way to align things?
Wow.
They like that question.
That's a great question. Should we take that from I would love to hear what marketing thinks about salespeople getting commissions. I can talk about commissions, but let's give this to Emily first.
Recently at our company, we just had this discussion about, as a marketing agency and as being a co-founder, my business partner is also the co-founder, we've led business development since day one. It's never been a question, right, of are we compensated based on number? No, we just do what's best for the business. Like that's what we do, and we have to get buy-in across the company. As we look to grow and expand, and I think that's a question for all of you, right? What stage is our company at? What maturity level is our company at? What's appropriate for what we're selling? It gets really interesting. I would tell you something that we've recently looked at in terms of structure from not necessarily just a compensation standpoint, but from like an accountability standpoint of who owns sales, who owns that relationship, right? From marketing, sales to customer success. We've looked at, there's 5 different organization models that you can be placed in, whether it's being a firefighter, more sales-oriented, services-oriented, integrated, or partnerships. If you go to Gainsights, it's like a website where you can look at their thought research around it. It gives you ideas on how to not only structure your organization, but also structure compensation plans accordingly to that. I will say, as a marketing organization, what's really tough is that we're not about the quantity of sales that people get. We're all about the quality. We're all about the target market fit. Is this a client that works for us? Is this a type of work that our team is really good at doing? So I get, again, like from a marketing standpoint, it's a little tricky to say, we're bringing in a salesperson and they're just motivated on getting the deals in if we can't service those clients in the best way possible. So I think for us, we really slow down and say, is it about compensating that person based on results? Yeah, that's part of it, but is it also taking into consideration, is this a long-term fit for the client? Are they gonna renew with us? Like all of the other metrics down the funnel that are really important to an agency, rather than maybe like Code 40, like a subscription-based business or a business that's really based on having development reps getting a high quantity of deals in their funnel and closing them for a smaller amount. So it kind of depends on the complexity of your business, the size of your business, where you're at, and how your organization is structured, I would say.
Are you in sales or marketing in your position? I thought so. Okay, so I'm kidding. I'm totally kidding. I was going to say the same thing regardless of what you said. So what I would say is I've been in organizations where this is a topic of conversation, right? And they try to find ways to incentivize everybody because, again, everybody's responsible for sales, right? So there are great ways to incentivize your client relationship management team or your project management team, right? Once the sale has been landed and these new groups come in that are really carrying that forward, if they can really keep pushing that project forward and lead to additional revenue, should they be compensated? In my opinion, yes, right? At the same time, Mick, we've probably been in the same boat many times because salespeople, the persona, the idea of what a salesperson does, and I'm not helping this at all, having a bottle of scotch behind my chair right now, but the idea of what salespeople do is that we walk around, we take clients out for drinks all the time, we just have fun, we just have all these crazy conversations, we tell jokes, we're crass, we do all this stuff, we fly all over the place. But here's the truth about it. We show up at 7 a.m. just like everybody else. We work until 5 p.m. just like everyone else. And then guess what we get to do instead of spending family time? We get to entertain clients all night, every night of the week. And then we travel on the weekends. And we don't spend those weekends with our families. And we work insane hours. And to make it even better, ask the salesperson in your office. They probably can't tell you legally how much they make on their base salary. It's anywhere from probably 55 to maybe 110, depending on how good they are, base salary. And then they make commission on top of that, right? Most people starting out probably making around like $60,000 a year as a salesperson in an organization where the marketing person starting out is probably making around $90,000 a year. So they're already making $30,000 more than they are a year. Now that salesperson has to fight for every penny on top of that and work twice as many hours because guess what marketing gets to do? Check out at 5 p.m. most days. Not trying to start an argument, but that's what happens.
I hear an argument.
That's what happens.
Give
right?
it. So before Amy, I'm going to jump in because I want you to round this out. No, because I mean, if anyone knows, so what I've seen in software sales from just my experience and most recently at the company that I'm in, especially in SaaS sales, is it's a shared clump. So it's MQL, there's the BDR, and then there's also the AE. And so what they've done is they've come up with a scenario kind of based on what Josh says, is based on effort in, effort out. Now this is all code based or whatever, but it's kind of interesting to see how many marketers, how many BDRs, business development reps. So they're the people that, okay, everyone. So if you don't know, I'm not going to assume, is a business development rep is the person that kind of tees up the phone call. The AE is the product expert, or at least should be, and definitely the conversion expert. So with that being said, it's a shared experience. And so the win is, like I said, it's at the Grammys or at the Oscars. But I've seen that model recently. I'd never seen it before. I've been in technology sales my whole life, 15 years, and I'd never seen it before. But the win rate, so at my current company, 33% since they instilled that. But it just depends on the pie. And I think the pie depends on, are you flying out? Is this all, Zoom in? Are you all doing Zoom calls? What is the effort in? But when it's a team win, man, it's just been a more profitable model. I hadn't seen it before, so.
Would you be motivated if you made 120 and got a 20%? Do you think you'd be as motivated if you made a higher base and a less bonus? Or do you think you need that, earn what you kill mentality?
Here's the big difference in my mind between somebody in sales and marketing, right? So, and this is in my mind. We can duke this out later. It's fine. But salespeople are very entrepreneurial, right? They are very okay with taking risks. And if you tell me, Josh, I'm going to give you $60,000 a year base salary, and your whatever you make is based on what your hustle is and what you can bring in, I'm going to take that challenge. Right? I'm going to turn that into $200,000 a year, no problem. Let's do this. If I believe in your product and your service and your team that's doing this, if I believe you can do what I say you're going to do, then I'm going to do that all day long, right? And so it's really a difference between, are you risk averse or are you okay with risk, right? And that's just in organizations. A lot of people, again, throw things at me if you want, but a lot of people in an organization don't own their own company, don't manage the team, right? They don't want to take those risks. They want that paycheck in the bank every single week if we're just making general statements, right? But salespeople, we're okay with that risk because we know that that upside could be absolutely incredible. We know we're going to have to work our asses off to get there, but we know that upside is going to be absolutely incredible, right? So we're okay with that.
The panel has spoken about the acquisition of new clients. Could you speak to the sales and marketing role when it comes to turning clients into advocates, your unpaid sales force?
Yeah. Did you see my post today about this? I mean, literally today. Brand advocates are, I won't talk forever. I'll let someone else talk about this one. But brand advocates are everything. Mick White's sitting right there. He's one of my brand advocates, right? If you can get your customers to buy into your mission, vision, values, and start singing your... PJ's sitting right here. He can't wait to be able to like be one of my advocates. Like he's one of the most supportive non-customers I have in the world, right? Right? Trinet in the back is wearing my shirt right now, right? That's a potential 1,600 customers of mine down the road, and they're wearing my shirt already. That's epic, right? Oh, shit. I better rework my hiring structure for support. No, it's creating brand evangelists is important not just for customers. It's important for your employees in your organization, right? So that's what I'm talking about with personal branding. Like allow your employees to work on their personal branding, to be brand evangelists for your company, because those brand evangelists lead to customers that become brand evangelists, because those customers love your employees. They don't follow your company page on LinkedIn. They don't care about your company page on LinkedIn. Your employees have 10 times the followers that your company page has. They're following your companies. They're buying from people, right? So if those people are singing your praises, their friends become your evangelists and customers as well. It's like the most critical thing for a company. It's something that I'm super passionate about, and I celebrate every single brand evangelist that I see just sprouting, right? Like Jennifer is a great brand evangelist. Aaron, this room is full of brand evangelists. Like I got to stop. Who wants to say something?
This is where systems become really important because, you have your MQLs, right? There's a process to move people through your funnel, and then you have your SQLs where people are moving through your sales process. Once they receive a successful service delivery, that's a repeatable process, right? So if you put those systems in place to trigger when someone gets a really good experience with you, what's that next step? You can create evangelists all night long.
I've kind of said this a bazillion times tonight, but honestly, in our business, as an agency, as a consultancy, where our people are our business, it all comes down to the work. There's a saying in the agency world, the work, the work, the work. If you do really great work for a client, they will work with you again, and they will work with you even when they leave that company. I actually did, at the end of last year, a 3-year sales analysis. Where did our leads come from? Where is our business coming from? How do we understand where to spend our time and our resources, right? It's the most limited value that we all have. And I will tell you guys, the insider knowledge, like over 60% of our business was driven by an existing client who had left their company and brought us with them. Highest form of flattery ever. When a client calls me or emails me, I get up on the phone and I say, it's the best email I got all day. I can't wait to tell my team that we get to work with you again. I can't tell you how much it means to me to have repeat business. And I think it ultimately comes down to the quality of work and the service that you provided to them. So I'll say it all day long. You can have great marketing, you can have great sales, you can get them to sign up the first time, but there's a reason why businesses last longer than 3 to 4 to 5 to 100 years, and it's ultimately because of the relationship that you built with that person. So don't forget that once you land a deal, the work has just begun. And as a sales and marketer, you should really care about the work that you're delivering to those clients and meeting their expectations, exceeding them time and time again. So it's not a question of if they're going to renew, it's what are we going to do next. So ultimately, I think that's our mentality at the Socialites and our goal as a professional services company is that we got to do great work. We got to deliver on what we promised to them in the first place. And the proof is in the pudding. The results show that they will continue supporting us.
Do we have any more questions? Otherwise, we have one more question. We started late, and this will be the last one.
I'll just do a quick follow-up, so it can be a quick sales or marketing in regards to this last question. So if we're trying to build an advocacy program and identifying where there's some really good wins that stories can be told, who owns that? Is that sales to identify and sales support to actually get that story retold? Or as we talked about earlier, is that marketing because that's their end goal is to tell the story of the organization?
If I could speak, would be I think that's a perfect scenario of what we're trying to end with as far as Smarketing, and you're smart, Jason, so maybe you teed this up, and I appreciate it. But I think that you know the answer to that, and maybe you don't, is I think that it needs to be the marketing team to help craft those words, to help take that story and that success from here's the pain that we saw, here's the pain that they had, here's how we uniquely solved it, and here was or why it was an accomplishment, here's how we did it. And then that brochure, I hate to use the word brochure because it's 2019, but for us to be able to be the mouthpiece of that story that marketing crafts in a way that can be delivered by a 9-year-old, we can get out there and evangelize that story. But I think that's a perfect pairing, perfect example to end. Do we have to go? Is that one last question? The perfect way to end this on how marketing and sales can pair together and really make an impact for whatever business you guys are in. Thanks for the question.
I would say from our standpoint, it's a shared responsibility between sales, marketing, and client services at our company. We have weekly meetings understanding where our clients are at. We don't wait till renewals. We don't wait till specific checkpoints to be able to tell success stories. We're constantly listening, constantly celebrating the successes that we have for our clients and lifting them up. As like a sales or marketing or client services person, the best thing that you can get is your clients promoted. And that's something that we really celebrate, is getting our team to understand what are the big wins that they're celebrating internally and how can we make that a bigger deal. So I think, again, it all comes back to the client focus and making sure the client is at the center of all of those relationships and not necessarily waiting until someone is motivated, like from a sales or marketing, like, are we going to get the renewal? What's the lifetime value of that customer? It's really saying, how are we providing value all along that journey? And then it kind of takes a lot of those questions out of the equation as to whether or not they're going to renew.
I'll talk again. You know I love talking.
Uh-huh.
Everybody's like, please God, let this be the end.
2 minutes.
Here's what I'll say. So every organization wants their employees to share more, right? So the wrong way is when marketing puts together things and then your employees just repost that. That doesn't mean anything. I don't see those in my feed, in any of my social feeds. I don't want to follow you if that's what you're doing. Don't do that, right? That's the wrong way. So what I see is marketing would own the portion where it conveys a message to me, whether I'm in sales or another position in the company. It conveys a message to me of why this would matter to me. And it conveys a message to me in an impactful enough way that not only do I understand why we do that, but I want to talk about it. I relate to it. I want to share it. And if marketing does it right, then when I share my personal experience that relates to whatever they just put out, why I want to share this, I should be pretty close to on brand, because they've explained to me why this is a core mission, value, vision of the company. This is why it's important to us as a company. Is this important to you? If it is, you're going to share it. If it's not, you're not going to share it. And if you do share it, probably going to be pretty close to on brand, right? So I think for me, it's just marketing coaches that. Marketing coaches that out of any person in the organization. And then you utilize your employees to help spread that word further, because marketing only has so far of a reach. So.
All right. Mickeli, Emily, Garrio, Amy, Josh, I can't thank you all enough. I would invite everyone, even if you can take one thing, just take one thing away from today and bring it back to your office, or if you don't work out of office, your place of work, because we can all sit here and listen and nod our head, but where the action happens, that's where it is, right? I mean, that if there's one thing I could inspire everyone to do is to take action on something, just one thing. I just want to thank you all. This brings so much joy to get a bunch of sales and marketing people in a room together and to have these lively conversations. You're going to get an email from me. I would love for you to, it'll be a very, very, very quick way to give me some feedback as we continue to plan additional events. With that, I'd love Bailey to just come up here for a 60-second to tell you a little bit more about Impact Hub, because this place that we're at, it's pretty amazing, isn't it? Yes.
Thanks, everybody. Yeah, just a little bit more about this beautiful space. Impact Hub is a nonprofit flexible workspace that supports social entrepreneurs in the Twin Cities. So it's entrepreneurs that are starting ventures that aren't just working towards profit, but also people and the planet. And we are the co-working space, but also so much more. We provide expert services. Laura is one of our experts. Mentorship, workshops, trainings, networking. And by being a part of Impact Hub, you're not just a part of our community, but also a global community of entrepreneurs. There are 100 Impact Hubs all over the world making a difference. So you can become a member, you can rent our space for your events, but I'll be here the rest of the night if you have questions. Thanks so much for being here.
Yeah, please stay and mingle. And one last round of applause to our wonderful panel.